Hello everyone. Today I'll be talking about my credit card journey, including all the cards I have and when I got them, also the rationale behind why I got some of these cards, and the mistakes I made along the way, and also a little comment about whether or not this card is actually impactful in my current credit card setup. Because as you'll see, some of these were better than others, and some of these have just become unimportant. Unfortunately, some of the cards that I signed up for were unimportant from the start, and so that kind of hindered me down the line. And yes, I am feeling those effects now. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the cards I signed up for. The first card I signed up for was the Bank of America Customized Cash Rewards, which is this red card over here. Since I had watched some credit card videos on YouTube, I saw that it was important to get started on building credit history as soon as possible. And here, that's at the age of 18. So on my 18th birthday, I signed up for a credit card, and this one specifically because I had banked with Bank of America, so I was hoping that my personal banking relationship would help me get this card, and it did. And I believe it came with a $1,500 spending limit. Now my credit limit is $5,500. This card was beneficial for me as it had a flexible 3% cashback category, which included online shopping and dining, which I use for online shopping most of the time, and also 2% on grocery stores and wholesale clubs, and 1% on everything else. And now that I'm a member of the Preferred Rewards from Bank of America, I do get a boost on my credit card earnings, which helps me justify and use these cards a little more as compared to other cards sometimes. One of the main drawbacks with this card is that the points that are earned do not transfer to travel, so they must be redeemed for some sort of cashback or gift cards. In the beginning, that was fine as I didn't really travel, so I just took the cashback and paid my balances or put them in my checking account with Bank of America, and that was fine at the time. But now that I'm beginning to travel more, those benefits are on the margin less useful than other benefits that you'll see later on. As I'm currently 21, that would mean that I applied for this card and got approved for this card in late 2021. Now I mostly use this card for online shopping, taking advantage of the 3% cashback category, as well as the Preferred Rewards boost. But the other categories like grocery stores and the 1% back on everything else is less useful as I have better cards for that. Wholesale clubs can sometimes be used as they're generally an exception to the grocery store category for other cards, so it's a bit more restrictive, but this card includes it as a 2% category, so when I need to use it, I'll use this card for it. A couple weeks after getting my Bank of America card, I got the Discover It card, shown here. The iridescent design was the first one, which I'll talk about later. I had heard that this card was very beneficial for beginners, and so since I was starting my credit card journey, I thought this would be a useful card for me too. It has a 5% quarterly rotating category as well as 1% on everything else. And in the first year, there was a cashback match, so the 5% categories were 10% for a year and the 1% was 2%. So at that point, it was like a 2% catch-all card. I applied for this card on my 18th birthday, but they needed some documents or verification or whatever, so I didn't get instantly approved for this card, so I had to wait a few weeks and send my documents in, and then later in the year they were able to approve me for I believe a $500 credit limit, which has gone to $3,750 now. Currently, I don't really use this card that much, but when there's a 5% category that I actively use, I will put it on this card. So for example, from October to December of 2024, the category was Amazon and Target. And so I shop at Amazon and Target occasionally, so I put my purchases on this card for the 5% cashback. A fun fact about the Discover It card is that you can actually get 4 of these cards for free. And they have a lot of designs of the cards, so I thought why not just to add to my collection because they look kind of nice. And so besides the iridescent card that I showed before, I also got the Bruins card, the Boston Bruins that is, and Monet's Artist Garden, as well as the gold card, not to be confused with the American Express Gold card, since they are completely different cards, but just something I found out and thought it was interesting. It's also pretty cool. They have so many designs. They have like over 100 designs that you can choose from. The third card I got was a First Financial Bank card. This I also got in late 2021. And so how did I come across this card? Well, there was a mail offer that was delivered to my house, and I looked at it and I saw that it was a credit card offer. So I thought it was pretty good, so I decided to sign up for it without reading the fine print. And that's the first mistake that I did here, was that I did not read the fine print. As I found out about this card afterward, it had an annual fee and not that many benefits that would be used to cancel out the annual fee. So I had to cancel the card and had to call up the bank and give some explanation, and it was just not exactly a process that I enjoyed being in. But it did allow me to learn a lot of things about the credit card process and about the credit card space, about how there are some credit cards that are good, some credit cards that are not as useful for me. And so, yeah, I canceled it, and that's all for this card. The fourth card that I got was the Target Circle credit card, formerly known as the Target Red card, as you can see here. As I shopped in Target decently much, I thought that having a Target credit card would help me be able to get a decently high discount rate on things I already bought in Target, as it comes with a 5% discount. And most credit cards don't have a 5% cash back, so I thought this would be pretty good. And I got this card about August of 2022, so it was about over half a year since I got my first two cards. Or rather, the first three, but after canceling, the last one was basically two. And I don't really use this card unless it's for Target, so it doesn't have too many use cases. It's also very small in its credit limit. It's only $400, so I can't buy that much stuff on it. But it's been reliable whenever I've needed it. After that, I got the Pedal One credit card, which you can see here. I think it was advertised as a credit building card, and I was still pretty young and building my credit history, so I thought that this could potentially offer a boost to my credit score somehow, even though its benefits were not as great. Its benefits are kind of weird in that there are some merchants in their app that offer certain bonuses, but it's pretty non-standard and it's very specific towards certain stores. I don't even know what they are because I don't use those that much. If I remembered correctly, there were ways to upgrade this card to a Pedal 2 somehow, but I'm not exactly sure how to do it. And at this stage, I don't really care that much about upgrading this card anymore. Initially, I had a $1,700 credit limit, but now it's $2,100. So it's gotten a little higher, but I haven't put too much spend on it, so it's probably not getting too much higher. A benefit of this card is that it has no transaction fee when paying abroad, but there are other cards that I use when paying abroad, so the foreign transaction fee doesn't really make or break this card for me. And now it's just part of accumulating my credit history more than anything else. About a day after I applied for and received my Pedal card, which was in January 2023, I applied for and also got the Chase Freedom Flex card. This card comes with 5% rotating quarterly categories, as well as 3% back on dining and 3% back on drugstores, and then 1% back on everything else. Now this 3% back on drugstores is pretty flexible, as I think CVS and Walgreens do count for this card's 3% category, and so that makes it pretty useful for me where there are a few CVS's around. So this card is also the beginning of what I'm trying to develop here, a Chase trifecta. After many years, I still have not gotten it, but that's beside the point. Hopefully I'll get closer to it next year, but that's also a different story. And so the Chase points I have are just stored there, which may be negative value as things get devalued, my points get devalued, and they're not worth as much as they were before. But I hope to eventually get a card where the points can be transferred to use for travel. But of course, that's still a bit out in the future. However, given the rotating 5% category, this still has some solid use cases for me. Like in October to December, there was PayPal, and many online retailers accept PayPal, and so I could just use this Chase card and put it into PayPal and get my 5% back. I also was eyeing this card much before I actually got it, but they wanted to see some established credit history, so I had to wait about a year after getting my first credit card in order for me to be approved for this one. The next card I got was the Apple card, which I signed up for and received in February of 2023. So I got this card because I saw it on the internet and I thought it was pretty cool how it was a card that was made by Apple, and I had a lot of Apple products, so I was like, this is probably a good card for me. And the 2% back on anything made with Apple Pay was pretty good, as I did have Apple Pay, so it would be pretty easy to spend everything on Apple Pay and get that 2%. And the card was also made of titanium or some other metal, and the sound that it makes when it's dropped is quite interesting. But of course, that's not exactly why I got the card, but maybe that was part of my decision in applying for it. Anyways, for most of 2023, I did use this for Apple Pay to get my 2%, but as I've developed my portfolio in 2024, it has been less and less used. But overall, it's been a fine card. It's not the best card that I have for me, but it's also not the worst. After that, in March of 2023, I applied for the Fanatics Fan Cash Rewards card by Synchrony. And my rationale behind this was that I enjoy sports, and sometimes I do want to buy sports merchandise, and I figured why not get the Fanatics card, which had like a 6% back on anything made by Fanatics. But of course, as you sports fans know out there, Fanatics has a little history of not being up to standards. Luckily for me, I haven't had any of those bad jerseys or whatever that you may have seen online, but nevertheless, I've not even been able to use this card at all. And so about a year later, it got canceled for inactivity. Basically, I had no spend on this card, so that was probably a big mistake in my portfolio, just applying for this card and not having definitive ways of using it and just letting it rot out there and becoming irrelevant in the process. And then in June of 2023, I got the Amazon store card, also by Synchrony. And this card had a $50 gift card as a sign-on bonus, basically, with no required minimum spend. So it was like, apply on the website and you'll get a gift card upon approval. And that's what I did, and I got approved. I don't really use this card that much, as there are better cards for me out there, including the Bank of America Customized Cash, which has 3% on online purchases, and other cards that you'll see later. So I just had the $50 as a bonus, and that's basically all I got for this card. And even though I haven't used any of it, Synchrony has not closed this account yet. But right now, it's just a software card that's there to look at, I guess, and doesn't serve much of a purpose. In 2024, I received 4 new credit cards. The first one was the Bank of America Travel Rewards card, which is this one right here. And I got this one because I had a trip planned for the summer of 2024, and I needed a card that had no foreign transaction fees. As previously, my cards either had foreign transaction fees or they just didn't offer any rewards. Like the Pedal card, for instance, did not have a foreign transaction fee, but the rewards are pretty minimal. And the Discover It card also does not have a foreign transaction fee, but Discover is not commonly accepted outside the United States. I got this card in April 2024, and this was my primary travel card when I did travel in the summer. It offers a 1.5% cashback on all purchases that may be redeemed for a travel or dining statement credit. And so while it's not the best card out there, it did serve the purpose for me to be able to travel without worrying about foreign transaction fees. And at that time, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to commit to a card that had an annual fee like the Amex Gold or Platinum, which I will talk about later, or even something like the Chase Sapphire Preferred or the Capital One Venture, which are also other travel cards that offer elevated travel benefits, but do come with an annual fee. And when I was making the decision of applying for that card, I wasn't sure if I wanted to spend an annual fee in order to get those travel benefits. So I just erred on the side of not paying an annual fee, but getting a lower benefit with this card. After that, in July of 2024, I applied for and received the Citi Double Cash card, which offers 2% back on everything. As Citi defines it, it's 1% after you buy and 1% after you pay, making it a 2% card. I was looking for a catch-all card that had a 2% cashback boost instead of the Apple card, and I wanted it to have a transferable reward currency. And so the Citi Double Cash card came to mind, and so basically for anything that's not a specific category that I already have, I just put it on this card and it gets the job done. The next card I got was the American Express Gold card, which I got in August of 2024. And I knew about this card since some of my high school friends had already had it for 1 or 2 years now. But I didn't really know if it was for me, as it did come with a $325 annual fee, which was pretty high. And I also did not have any annual fee cards at the time. But after looking at it and seeing the credits that it had, such as the dining credit, which included Grubhub and Cheesecake Factory, Five Guys, and other vendors, as well as an Uber credit of $10 each month, I thought that I was able to use these pretty consistently, whether it's for Grubhub and Uber pickup or delivery. I'd be able to make the best use of my $10 credits. The Resi credit of $50 would be a little more challenging, but there are a few Resi restaurants around where I live, so that wouldn't be a big problem. And the $7 Dunkin' credit was also pretty useful for me, as there are a ton of Dunkins where I'm from. I saw that the credits were able to offset the annual fee, and so I was basically able to have a negative effective annual fee, which made it more appealing to me. The elevated multipliers of 4 times on dining and groceries was also important for me, as I saw that dining was my highest spending category by far, and so I knew that I needed to get a credit card that had elevated boosts on dining so that I could maximize my rewards from it. This card was also the first card that had an annual fee, and also the first card that gave me access to transfer partners. And now it's basically the card I use for most, if not all, of my dining purchases. And last but not least, at least for now, is the American Express Platinum card, which I got in November of 2024. As I had anticipated a large one-time purchase, I knew that I needed a card with a large sign-up bonus. And this card has a variable sign-up bonus between 80,000 and 175,000 points when spending $8,000. And I knew I could reasonably hit that mark with my spending. But unfortunately, I only got the 125,000 point offer, so I wasn't able to maximize that, even though I looked for a long time and tried to do all sorts of tactics to maximize my sign-up bonus. But it just didn't work, so I had to settle for the relatively lower sign-up bonus. This card offers a variety of benefits, some of which are more useful than others. For example, the $200 Uber credit, which is divided into monthly installments, can also be tacked onto the Uber credit that I got from the American Express Gold card. And that is also pretty easy to use, as I just combined it to get Uber Eats. Some other benefits that they have are a hotel credit and an airline credit, Saks credit, and entertainment credit, and Equinox credit, which I don't use. And also access to airport lounges and global entry or TSA PreCheck, which help potentially expedite flying, whether that's the check-in process or the check-out process. However, since Amex is not widely accepted outside of the United States, I may not be able to use the gold or platinum card consistently. So let's say for restaurants abroad that don't take the Amex card, then I can't use the gold card and I'll have to use another card. In this case, that would be the Bank of America Travel Rewards card. So with these two cards, it may seem that I'm practically engaged to American Express, but I just like the benefits. But of course, I'm cautious about the moves that they make, whether that's increasing annual fees or changing benefits or whatnot. So I'm not necessarily tied to Amex. I just find value in their products. And so I wouldn't call myself an Amex fanboy, even though I do find some parts of Amex pretty satisfying, including the return protection, which was pretty efficient and fast. But of course, there are some downsides to the Amex cards, like the cashback setup, which would be pretty terrible for Amex, as it can only be redeemed for 0.6 cents per point, which is not good when you compare it to something like Chase or Capital One, which I don't have, but that's still a good example. Or even Bank of America, that doesn't have travel. They all have 1 cent per point when redeemed for cashback. So the gold and platinum for maximum value would have to be used for something like travel rather than cash back here, which I'm fine with since I do have some cashback cards and some travel cards and I can mix them around and based on what I need and just put some spend on the necessary cards. And so after having these 12 cards in my about 3-year journey, it's taught me a lot of things about myself and about the credit card game. For example, the credit card world changes a lot. Annual fees go up, rewards change, benefits change, everything changes. Protections go down. But you just have to live with it. You have to understand what's going on. You have to see whether the cards down the line still match your needs in the future. Something else to consider for my credit card journey is that I have been on the high end of Chase 524. Currently, I'm at 924, so I'll have to wait a long while till I get another Chase card. And my hard inquiries for Experian, which is the credit agency that most banks pull from, shows 26 inquiries for me over the last 2 years, which is also something that I've struggled with, is that I've been pretty impatient. I've just wanted to get the new cards, even though I didn't have a high chance of success, so I kept applying, even though I was basically guaranteed denial. And so I've basically racked up hard inquiries, and that's just harmed me throughout this process. And so after a while, I have learned to settle down and reconsider doing that and waiting instead of applying for new credit cards without an established plan. So that's been my credit card journey and the amount of credit cards I have. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you liked, please like and subscribe. And if you want to leave any comments sharing about your own experiences, or if you've been inspired by my experience somehow, please leave a comment down below. And with that, I appreciate your time and hope you have a nice day.